You're replaceable. The words landed like a slap. The conference room was packed. Managers, team leads, even interns lined the walls. And at the head of the table sat my cousin, my boss, leaning back like he owned the air we breathed. He tapped the screen where my presentation was still open. "This," he said. "Anyone here could have done this." A few people shifted in their seats. No one spoke. "That's not true," I said quietly. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Then prove it," he said. "Because from where I'm sitting, you're just another employee who got lucky being family." My chest tightened. Not because he was right, but because everyone knew he wasn't. I built that system. I trained half the people in that room. I fixed problems before they even became problems. And he knew it. But today, he wanted a show. "Know your place," he added, waving a hand like I was an inconvenience. Silence filled the room. I stood slowly, adjusted my jacket, looked him straight in the eye. "Okay," I said calmly. "Let's test that." I picked up my laptop and walked out. Behind me, no one stopped me. No one understood what I meant. Not yet. The company had always been a family thing. At least, that's how they liked to describe it. But family didn't mean equal. It meant hierarchy. My cousin was older, louder, more visible. So, he got the title. I got the work. From the outside, it looked like he built everything. Inside, everyone knew the truth, but no one said it out loud. At home, it was worse. "You need to respect him," my mother said that evening. "He's your boss," my father added. "And your cousin." I stared at my plate. "He humiliated me," I said. "He corrected you," my mother replied quickly. That told me everything. They didn't see me. They saw the structure, the order, the illusion. And I had protected that illusion for years. But not anymore. That night, I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and clicked on a folder I hadn't touched in a long time. It was hidden, locked, organized. The label was simple. Contingency. I hovered for a second. Then I opened it. The truth about the company wasn't written in brochures or websites. It lived in systems. And I built those systems. Every client pipeline, every vendor contract, every internal process that made the company run smoothly. I designed them. I tested them. I fixed them when they broke. No one else knew how they worked fully. Not even him. Especially not him. I scrolled through the files checking everything. Access permissions. Ownership logs. Control layers. Everything was still intact. Exactly how I left it. Then I checked something else. User privileges. His name was there, of course. But it was limited. Restricted. He had access to what he needed to look important, not what he needed to actually run things. I leaned back slowly. He didn't even realize it. Didn't realize that half the systems he relied on weren't really his. I closed the file. A slow breath left my chest. For years, I had built a safety net. Not for him. For the company. And now for me. Because if he wanted to prove I was replaceable, then I was ready to prove he wasn't. The next morning, he didn't even look at me when I walked in. "Good," he said. "You're here." No greeting. No acknowledgement of yesterday. Just control. "I need you to handle scheduling for the new interns," he added loudly. A few heads turned. Scheduling? That wasn't even close to my role. "I already assigned your project to someone else," he continued. "We need you where you're actually useful." A couple of people exchanged looks. They knew. One of the junior staff members, a quiet girl named Ada, caught up with me later. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Everyone knows you built that system." I smiled slightly. "It's okay," I said. But it wasn't. Not anymore. I walked back to my desk and sat down. Opened my laptop. Looked at the systems I had built. And for the first time, I didn't feel responsible for protecting them. I felt ready to let them stand on their own. Or fall. I placed my hands on the keyboard. And made a decision. I was done fixing things for him. I didn't make big moves. Not at first. That would have been obvious. Instead, I started small. Quiet. Precise. I reviewed contracts. Made sure ownership tags were correctly assigned. I checked workflows. Removed unnecessary shared access. I updated permissions. Tightened control where it mattered. Nothing illegal. Nothing dramatic. Just accurate. For years, I had left doors open for convenience. Now I was closing them, one by one, carefully. By lunchtime, everything looked the same from the outside. But underneath, it was different. Cleaner, clearer, and more defined. Then a notification popped up. Ownership transfer pending approval. I stared at it. That hadn't triggered in years. I clicked into it, read through the details, then leaned back, slowly, because what it meant was simple. The system was recognizing what had always been true, and it was starting to correct itself. Without noise, without warning, without asking permission. I smiled faintly. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was alignment. The first crack showed up faster than I expected. We were in another meeting. Same room. Same people. Different energy. My cousin stood at the screen, trying to pull up a dashboard. It didn't load. He clicked again. Nothing. A small pause. Then a forced laugh. System's acting up, he said. I said nothing. He tried again. Still nothing. A few people shifted. Give me a second, he muttered, stepping aside to check his laptop. I watched quietly, because I knew exactly what he was seeing. Access denied. He didn't say it out loud, but I could see it in his face. A flicker of confusion. Then something sharper. Panic. He recovered quickly. Moved on. Pretended it didn't matter. But it did. Because for the first time, he didn't have control. After the meeting, my phone buzzed. A message from one of our biggest clients. Simple. Direct. We only deal through you. I stared at the screen, then looked up, right at his office. He had no idea. By the end of the week, people started noticing. Not everything. Just enough. A manager stopped by my desk. Hey, he said carefully. Is everything okay with the system? Everything's working as designed, I replied. He nodded slowly. That answer told him more than I said. Later, 2 more people approached me. Then another. Same question. Different words. I gave them the same answer, every time. I wasn't fixing things anymore. I wasn't explaining things either. And that silence? It shifted something. People started choosing sides. Quietly. Without saying it out loud. Then, Friday afternoon, my cousin made an announcement. Big smile. Big energy. We just secured a major deal, he said. Applause followed. I recognized the details immediately. It was my work, my strategy, my structure, presented like it was his. I didn't react, didn't interrupt, just watched. Because I knew something he didn't. That deal was about to test everything. And this time, I wasn't going to catch it when it slipped. It started small. A missed update. Then a delayed response. Then a system error that didn't fix itself overnight. The deal began to wobble. At first, no one noticed. Then everyone did. Deadlines slipped. Data didn't match. Processes stalled. My cousin grew louder. More aggressive. Blaming teams. Pushing timelines. But the truth was simple. He didn't understand the system. And I wasn't fixing it anymore. One afternoon, I overheard him on a call. Yes, we're handling it, he said quickly. Everything's under control. It wasn't. An hour later, an email came through. Marked urgent. The client. They wanted a meeting. Not with leadership. Not with the team. With me. I read it twice. Then closed my laptop. Slowly. Because this wasn't a mistake. This was a shift. And once it started, it wouldn't stop. The room was full again. But this time, the energy was different. Tense. Focused. The client sat across from us, arms folded. My cousin started talking immediately. Confident. Smooth. Or trying to be. We've implemented a strong framework. Can she explain it? The client interrupted, nodding toward me. The room went still. My cousin blinked. I can handle. I'd prefer her, the client said firmly. All eyes turned to me. I stood slowly, walked to the screen, and began. Simple, clear, direct. I explained the structure, the flow, the logic behind every decision. No hesitation, no confusion, just truth. When I finished, the client nodded. That's what we signed for, he said. Silence followed. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Because now everyone knew. Not guessed.
Knew.
I stepped back.
Sat down.
And for the first time, people weren't looking at him.
They were looking at me.
And asking a question no one had said out loud before.
Who was really in charge?
That night, the family dinner felt like a setup. Everyone was there, waiting. My cousin spoke first. You embarrass me, he said. I looked at him calmly. No, I replied. I corrected you.
My mother sighed.
This isn't how we handle things, she said. Then how do we handle being disrespected?
I asked.
Silence. My father leaned forward. You're creating tension in the company. I didn't start it, I said. My cousin laughed bitterly. You think you're more important than you are? I held his gaze. I think you should check who actually owns what. That stopped him. Just for a second. Then he waved it off. Like it meant nothing. Like I meant nothing.
But I saw it.
That flicker. That doubt.
And that was enough.
Because once doubt enters, it grows. The next day, I pulled up the records. Not for me. For him. Every agreement I had signed over the years. Every decision I made when others chose titles over substance. Raises I declined. Bonuses I redirected. Equity I accepted instead. At the time, no one cared. It seemed small. Insignificant. But it added up. Quietly.
Consistently.
I printed everything. Organized it. Reviewed it again. Then I sat back. And looked at the final number. Even I paused. Because it wasn't just significant. It was decisive. Far more than anyone expected. Including him. I closed the folder. Picked up my phone. And sent one email. Short. Formal.
Clear.
Request for board review. Attached. Documentation. I didn't hesitate. Didn't second guess. I hit send. And just like that, everything changed. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't need to. The system would. By afternoon, confirmations started coming in. Board members. Legal. Compliance. All acknowledged receipt. No questions. Just awareness. I sat at my desk calm. Focused. Because this wasn't sudden. This wasn't emotional. This was built. Layer by layer. Year by year. While everyone else chased visibility, I secured control.
And now?
It was time to use it. I opened one final document. Read through it carefully. Then signed. Formal notice. Official. Binding. My cousin still had his title. Still had his office. Still had his confidence. But none of that mattered anymore. Because behind the scenes, the structure had already shifted. And he didn't even know it yet. I leaned back in my chair. Closed my eyes for a second. Then opened them. Ready. Because the next move wasn't mine. It was his. And whatever he did next would trigger everything. He found out the next morning. Not from me. From legal. I was at my desk when his door slammed open.
Helen, he snapped.
My office. Now. I walked in slowly.
Calm.
He was pacing. What is this? He demanded, waving printed documents. Board review? Ownership claims? What game are you playing?
No game, I said.
Just structure. You think you can threaten me? He laughed. But it sounded forced. I didn't threaten you, I replied. You triggered it. That made him pause. Triggered what? I held his gaze. The clause you never read. His face shifted.
Slightly.
Just enough. You're bluffing, he said. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't. He stepped closer. You're still an employee here, he added, lower now. Don't forget that. I almost smiled. Because that was the problem. He still thought this was about employment. It was never about that, I said quietly. Then I turned and walked out, leaving him alone, with a question he couldn't answer. By noon, everything began moving.
Fast.
Legal sent internal notices. Compliance flagged active leadership decisions. Operations froze approvals. No announcements. Just quiet restrictions. The clause was simple. If authority was misused, especially without proper structure, everything paused until review. And he had misused it. Repeatedly. That morning alone, he had overridden decisions he didn't understand, signed off on processes he didn't control, and tried to remove access he never owned. Each action added weight. Each mistake fed the trigger. By afternoon, it activated. Fully. A message went out to key personnel. Emergency board meeting scheduled. Attendance required. I read it once.
Closed my laptop and stood.
Around the office, people felt it. No one knew exactly what was happening, but they knew something was. Because the system, the one that always ran smoothly, had stopped pretending. And once it stopped, there was no going back. The office changed overnight. Not physically, but in tone. Conversations dropped when he walked in. People avoided eye contact. Systems moved differently. He noticed. Of course he did. That morning, he tried to access executive controls.
Locked.
He tried again. Still locked. I watched from my desk as he called IT. They're reviewing permissions. The response came. That didn't satisfy him. Nothing would. Because this wasn't an error. It was correction. Rumors spread quickly. Something about ownership. Something about control.
Something about me.
He walked through the floor like he still owned it. But it didn't feel the same. Even security noticed. Later that day, I saw him at the entrance. Badge in hand. Frustrated. The scanner blinked red. A guard stepped forward. Just a quick verification, he said politely. My cousin froze. Only for a second. But everyone saw it. And that second said everything. Without the systems running properly, everything slowed. Then stopped. Approvals delayed. Reports incomplete. Decisions uncertain. My cousin tried to push through it. Louder now. More aggressive. Fix it, he snapped in meetings.
But no one knew how.
Because I wasn't fixing it. And he never learned. Investors noticed quickly. Emails started coming in. Questions about timelines. Concerns about stability. Requests for clarity. He answered them.
Badly.
Each response revealed more gaps. More confusion. More risk. I stayed quiet. Watched everything unfold. Not with satisfaction. With certainty. Because this wasn't chaos. It was exposure. The company wasn't failing. It was revealing where it had been weak all along. And who had been holding it together. By the end of the day, one message stood out. From a major investor. We need answers. Immediately. I read it. Then closed my inbox. Because those answers were coming. I prepared alone. No speeches. No emotion. Just facts. Documents lined up neatly. Timelines mapped out. Every decision. Every override. Every failure linked to its cause. And every cause traced back to one thing. Misuse of authority. I didn't need to exaggerate. The truth was enough. By afternoon, the boardroom was ready. Chairs set. Screens prepared. Files distributed. People arrived quietly. One by one. No small talk. No smiles. Just tension. I walked in last. Took my seat. And waited. Then the doors closed. Slowly. With a soft click. It sounded small. But it meant something bigger. Because once those doors closed, there was no performance left. No titles to hide behind. No family dynamics to soften reality. Just accountability. And truth. I looked across the table. At my cousin. And, for the first time, he didn't look certain.
He spoke first. Of course he did.
She's been undermining operations, he said quickly. Creating confusion. Disrupting systems. Let's stick to facts, I said calmly. He stopped. Just for a second. Then pushed forward. She's trying to take control. I already have it, I replied. Silence. I opened my folder. Laid out the documents. Every system failure, I said, started after unauthorized overrides. I slid one forward. Signed by you. Another. Approved without review. Another. Access changes you didn't understand. He tried to respond. But each time he did, there was proof waiting. Clear. Simple. Undeniable. The board watched quietly. No interruptions. No reactions. Just listening. When I finished, I closed the folder. And leaned back. The room was still. Heavy. because there was nothing left to argue, nothing left to twist, just the truth. And it had landed. The final document changed everything. I placed it on the table, gently. Equity distribution, I said. A board member picked it up, read it, then passed it along.
Slowly.
One by one, faces changed. Not shocked, but recalibrating, because what they were seeing didn't match what they assumed. I watched my cousin as it reached him. His eyes moved quickly, then stopped, locked on the number. His face drained. That's not possible, he said. It is, I replied. Years of decisions.
Small at the time. Ignored. Dismissed. But documented. Signed.
Final. I am the majority shareholder, I said simply. No emotion. No emphasis. Just fact. Silence followed. Then the realization spread. Not loudly, but completely. Because ownership wasn't a title. It was control. And control had just shifted. It happened fast after that. Authority reevaluated. Roles reassessed. Titles questioned. My cousin sat there.
Still.
Like the ground had moved under him. Because it had. His position depended on perception. On assumption. On family structure. None of that mattered now. The board didn't argue. They didn't need to. The structure spoke for itself. One of them turned to me. What do you want to do? He asked. Simple question. Big answer. I looked at my cousin. Really looked at him. For the first time, he wasn't in control. He swallowed hard. Then finally spoke. What do you want? Not angry. Not loud. Just unsure. I held his gaze. And for a moment, said nothing. Because the answer mattered. Not just for me. For everything. Then I leaned forward. Ready. I'll make this simple, I said. The room stayed silent. Focused. You step down, I continued. Quietly.
I paused.
Or the board removes you. No threats. No emotion. Just options. He stared at me. You do that, he asked. I already did, I replied. That landed harder than anything else. Because it was true. This wasn't a warning. It was a result. The board didn't intervene. They didn't soften it. They just waited. Because the choice was his. Even now, he looked around the room, searching for support, finding none. Because this wasn't about loyalty anymore. It was about structure. And structure doesn't care about feelings. It only cares about what's real. He leaned back slowly, breathing heavier now. And for the first time, he understood. This wasn't something he could talk his way out of. He tried anyway. I built this company too, he said. No, I replied calmly. You managed it. That difference mattered. He pushed again. We can fix this. We're fixing it, I said. His shoulders dropped slightly. Because he was running out of space. Out of leverage. Out of control. The board chair spoke. The decision needs to be made. No pressure. Just finality. He looked at the paper in front of him. Then at me. Then back again. Slowly, he picked up the pen. His hand shook slightly. But he signed. No dramatic moment. No raised voices. Just a quiet ending. When he finished, he slid the paper forward. No one clapped. No one reacted. Because it wasn't a victory. It was a correction. Within minutes, systems updated. Access revoked. Authority reassigned.
Clean.
Efficient. Final. The fallout wasn't loud. It was divided. Some family members called me. Angry. Accusing. Saying I went too far. Others stayed silent. Which said enough. But inside the company, things shifted quickly. Stability returned. Systems aligned. Decisions made clearly. Employees relaxed. Not immediately, but gradually. Because uncertainty was gone. One morning, Ada stopped by again. You fixed everything, she said softly. I shook my head. No, I replied. It was always like this. She smiled. Because she understood. Respect didn't come from what I did now. It came from what I had always done. Quietly. Consistently. Correctly. And now, people were finally seeing it. Change came fast after that. Not chaotic. Structured. Intentional. Leadership roles were reviewed, not by family, by merit. Some stayed, some didn't. Processes improved. Communication became clear. And for the first time, the company felt honest. No hidden work, no borrowed credit, no empty titles, just function. One afternoon during a meeting, someone asked me directly, "Was this revenge?" The room went quiet, waiting. I thought about it. All of it. The years, the moments, the decision. Then I shook my head. "No," I said simply, "because it wasn't." And I knew exactly what it was. I sat in the office that evening, alone, quiet. The same office I had worked from for years. But it felt different now. Not bigger, not better, just accurate. Everything around me reflected what was real, not what people pretended. I thought about that moment in the conference room. The words, "You're replaceable." I didn't feel anger anymore, or even satisfaction, just clarity, because he wasn't entirely wrong. Anyone can be replaced when they don't understand what they hold, when they misuse it, when they assume it's theirs. I leaned back in my chair, looked around slowly, at the systems, the structure, the company I had built, protected, and finally corrected. Then I said it quietly, not to anyone else, just to myself. He said I was replaceable. A small pause. Then the truth. Turns out he was.